thank you guys so much for being 1,000 of you. Lately, my channel's been growing more and more, and I'm very grateful to have the fan base and support that I do, so thank you guys. I thought that in celebration of 1,000 subscribers, I would do a Q&A, because I thought it would be a bit of fun. First question comes from Professor Stick. He's a YouTuber who I've worked with before. Why are you no longer a stick figure? Because, in the end, I wasn't fooling anyone. Everyone knew that I was a person. Everyone knows that you're a person. And it just makes things so much easier. You know as well as I do how difficult it is to edit even that simple stick figure. How much time you spend just editing it. I mean, lately, some of your videos have just looked like this. It's a stick figure next to a microphone. Does that look familiar? Yeah, thought so. But it's okay, because your channel was pretty much always a ripoff of me. No, but seriously, filming myself was always the original plan. But in the beginning, I didn't have a camera that was worth filming myself on. And even now, I'm filming on a fairly decent phone. But when I did get this phone, everything looked horrible. My face was extremely red. It turns out that was a problem with the lighting, so then I had to get these lights that I'm using here. But actually filming me makes editing a whole lot easier. And it makes my videos a lot more visually interesting, because you're not just looking at a stick figure. Now, I always thought that some of the videos that I wanted to do would just be too boring to do. Like the Jehovah's Witness pamphlet. I've been wanting to do that for a long time. But visually, you'd just be switching back and forth between a stick figure and text. And I just didn't think that that would be very entertaining to watch. So, in short, it makes editing a whole lot easier, and it looks more visually appealing. Next up, why can't my guild progress onto Emerald Nightmare on Mythic? Let's be real, you already know the answer to this question. It's Steve. Steve has been holding you back for a long time, and it's way past the time where you can just let him go. You'd be much, much happier when you do that. How can we change someone's ideology to the truth even after facts, logic, and the scientific method don't change them? There's not a whole lot that you can do, because you and I, we think in a particular way, and most people don't think that way. I assume that this is the case for most of you out there, but I base my beliefs, understandings, and opinions on evidence and credible sources who have looked into what the evidence tells us. But that's not how most people think. Most people have beliefs more akin to groupthink or social learning. But basically, everybody thinks in a slightly different way. And this is just speculation on my end, but I think that certain people understand certain concepts really well. So if you can use their understandings of those certain areas and show how maybe they don't line up with other areas of their thought, then that would at least get the ball rolling, if that makes sense. But essentially what you want to do is present information and ask questions so that they feel like they came up with the conclusion themselves. Do you like Breaking Benjamin? Yes, I do. Why do you have long hair? I don't see the appeal. Well, there are a few reasons I could give. For one, I just like the way it looks. That's as good of a reason as any. But you could also say that I just don't want to get a haircut, which is a pretty petty reason, but that's essentially how it got started. But it could also be seen as a bit of a symbolic gesture, because if I remember correctly, I started growing my hair out around the same time as I became an atheist. And one of the things that I believed was that women had to have long hair and men had to have short hair. And this is based on a certain passage in the Bible. I think there's even a verse that says, "Does not even nature itself teach you that it is a shame for men to have long hair?" And I used stuff like that literally, and I pushed it onto other people. So me growing my hair out was kind of a gesture to show that this doesn't control me anymore. Have you tried looking into DMT? I did it 4 times a little after becoming atheist, and it pretty much got rid of my fear of non-existence after death. I also became more comfortable with going into new situations and not caring about what others thought of me. If not, have you tried any other drugs? What is your... I don't know what the deal with this is. Sometimes comments just get cut off. I don't get it. But no, I have not done DMT or really any other drug for that matter. I grew up really sheltered, so I never really had access to them. I never even had money to pay for it, even if I did, and I never really had much of any friends, much less friends who were willing to share. But as for the fear of non-existence after death, I feel like that's just something that we feel when we're young. I feel like the cure for that is just old age. I think we just get to the point where we figure that we're just on our way out now. Maybe after a while, we'll just get tired of it. I don't know. And some of you might not think that it's scary at all, and for good reason. But it's especially scary for ex-Christians or people who came out of other religions, because they believed essentially all their life that they will be rewarded after they die. So for them to learn that there's nothing at all after that, it's really scary, especially in transition. And as for caring about what others think of me, I kind of got over that a while ago. I think it was when I started to develop Tourette's, because, I started doing weird things and making weird noises, and people gave me really weird looks. But I figured that if I see someone who thinks that I'm a weirdo at the grocery store, I'm probably not going to see that person again, so it kind of just stopped mattering to me after a while. But drugs aren't exactly high on my list of things to do. Tell me what you do about the refugee crisis? You didn't need a question mark there, but I'll let that slide. I am not convinced that Muslim refugees pose any significant threat to the US. Now, granted, I haven't looked a lot into it, but I'm not entirely convinced that they are significantly more criminal than anyone else. And until we have good reason to suspect that they would be, we should just treat them as human beings. But if problems were to arise because of refugees, I think that we just need better investigation. But I haven't really looked much into it, so you can take this with a grain of salt if you want to. What was your religion? Non-denominational fundamentalist Christianity. Did you see The Cosmos with Neil deGrasse Tyson? No, I didn't. I would like to, but I don't know, I haven't had much time. And I also have tons of books over there, you can't see them, but I have tons of books that I have yet to read. And generally, I don't really feel comfortable sitting down for a long time to watch a movie. It just seems weird to me, I don't know. What is your position on social justice, feminism, Black Lives Matter, etc.? I'm not a fan. But I also don't think that these opinions are in the majority. I think that most people are against third wave feminism and against Black Lives Matter in some way. And that's one of the reasons why I haven't made videos about them. Because what I see, lots and lots of people are religious, and it's taking a toll on everyone. And I don't really think that that's the case for social justice. I think it's just something that people love to hate, even for good reason. But as for feminism, I am what you would consider the dictionary definition of a feminist. I do indeed believe that men and women should have equal rights, but the difference between me and third wave feminists is that I think we already do have those rights in the first world. And I think that modern day feminists are creating problems where there are none, just so that they could feel like a victim. And I think it has a lot to do with groupthink. But Black Lives Matter, I actually think is pretty interesting. Because I believe that their concerns are genuine. What they stand for is based on actual things. But it's completely misguided. Because police brutality and institutional racism, those are things, those are problems, but they're not race problems, they're socioeconomic problems. And I think that until we treat them as such, we're not going to make these things any better, we're not going to make any progress. But Black Lives Matter, essentially, they're just saying, you need to feel bad for me because I'm black. That's really all that they're doing. But yeah, social justice groups, I believe, are just hindering further development, further progress. What do you think of Star Wars? I think that it's pretty entertaining, with the exception of the first 3 movies. I mean, I've watched them, a long time ago. I can't even remember most of them now. And I'm not exactly a fanatic. I don't just have Star Wars memorabilia everywhere. Except I do have 3 lightsabers over there. I do have those. But like I said, I'm kind of weird about watching movies. But I do find a lot of the lore behind it really interesting. How did you get into contact with Professor Stick? I DM'd him on Twitter. It's not that hard. I mean, keep in mind that this wasn't just out of the blue. We've commented on each other's videos before and we knew who we were. But it was pretty simple. I DM'd him, was like, hey, do you want to collab on this video? And he was like, no, that video's a pain in the ass, so what about this one? And I was like, alright, that's cool. That's pretty much how it went down. You live in Texas, correct? Nope, but close. I live in Louisiana. What type of music do you like? I listen to several different types. Sometimes I'll listen to more pop music or more melodic music. Sometimes I'll listen to more metalcore-like music. Sometimes I'll listen to more emo music. And sometimes I'll listen to death metal or deathcore. I got the names wrong in the original take. I'm terrible. Did people treat you different when you announced that you're an atheist? No, not really. But that's mostly because I didn't really announce that I was an atheist. When I told my brothers, they actually kind of agreed with me, which I thought was surprising. But when I told my dad, he was actually surprisingly cool about it. He was really understanding and supportive, and I'm very grateful for that. But my aunt, on the other hand, she didn't start treating me negatively, but she kept asking why, and she kept throwing out proofs of God's existence. She didn't know about my YouTube channel, but she gave me a lot of arguments about how the Bible is accurate, which it's a lot to go through, but I don't know. But other than that, nobody really knows. Just curious, have you or Genesis Apologetics attempted to contact each other? Do you think they are aware of or watch your response videos? No, I have not contacted them, they have not contacted me, and honestly I'd like to keep it that way. But they probably have no idea that my videos exist, because they're a small company and they're focused on selling their lesson plans. I don't think that constantly searching YouTube for small channels who are using their content is high on their priorities. And if they did see my responses, they'd probably have some attempt to take it down or demonetize it or something. I'm sure I'd hear of it. What are your thoughts on the religious circumcision? I find it absolutely appalling. Undergoing any sort of procedure like that is in no way necessary, puts the child in danger, and takes away a lot of a vital function of a human being. I have absolutely no idea how that's legal anywhere. And I don't even understand how that makes sense to anyone. Yeah, circumcision is ridiculous, and any parent who has their child circumcised are abusive parents. Do you use a script or do you improvise on the fly? It depends on the video. Like when I'm responding to comments, I don't have to write a script. But when I'm making a video that makes lots and lots of claims against science, I'll have to spend a lot of time researching that, and I'll have to write up a script just so that I can get the information correct when I'm making the video. And scripts also make it a little bit easier to edit the video because I know exactly how it's going to go through. And especially now that it's harder to go back and re-record things, I make lots and lots of scripts. And I'll usually spend a whole day doing research and writing the script. And when I do that, I tend to make a lot less errors. Do you take fan art? Yeah, sure. I wouldn't do much of anything with it other than retweet it, but if you want to make fan art, go ahead. I'd be flattered. Do you think your videos are helping people that have been indoctrinated by religion understand a new perspective? Is it worth the effort? Here's the thing. The people who are already convinced of their religion or of creation, they're not going to change their minds when they see my video. They're going to have lots of objections, and I'd have to argue even further. But I'm also not making these videos for them. But I think that there are a lot of people who are really questioning their religions, and they're trying to make sense of things that don't really make sense. And to those people, I think that I could really help them understand, or at least give my perspective of things. That's the people that I really want to reach out to. But if the things that I say in my video do start making religious people have some sort of doubt, then yeah, that would be cool too, but I don't reasonably expect that to happen. What are your views on politics? Okay, first of all, this is going to be from an American perspective, talking about American politics. My views tend to be more democratic. Now, I don't necessarily care about labeling myself a Democrat, but in all honesty, I am. Pretty much anything that science says, I am for that. Like, I am for fighting against climate change. I think that we should focus more attention on mental illness. I am pro-choice with the exception of late-term abortion. I think that the two-party system is completely hindering us. And I also don't think that we're going to embetter the economy in general without the government decreasing taxes and or increasing their spending. And yes, this would indeed increase the budget deficit, but it's also like high school level stuff. I literally learned this in my high school civics class, but I'm not really holding too strongly onto my political opinions. Do you not believe that God does exist, or do you believe that God does not exist? I believe that God almost certainly does not exist, which only truly falls into not believing that he exists, but that's mostly because of the unprovable possibility of a deistic God. Do you think Professor Stick was one of the factors as to how your YouTube channel suddenly grew so fast? Yes, I do. I think that working with him and working with Lego Darwin greatly increased my publicity, and I am incredibly thankful to both of them. But they are not the only reasons why my channel started to grow. I also got a lot of help with just people sharing the videos, as well as when the videos get suggested from other videos. But I think that working with Lego Darwin, more than anything, really kicked off my YouTube channel. Do you plan to tackle some other religions besides Christianity? Yes, I would like to, and I have made a video about Islam, but I don't think you're going to see much of it. That's because, for one, there's a lot more Christian stuff out there, especially where I'm at, and it's simply what I'm most familiar with. What is the religion that makes the most sense, and why do you think it is wrong? I would say that certain non-deistic schools of Hinduism would be most reasonable, or maybe Buddhism and maybe Jainism. But the concepts that Hinduism holds really makes the most sense to me. And their conception of the universe is by far the most accurate of any religion I've seen. But in the end, there's no evidence for it. There's really no indication and no good reason to be convinced of Hinduism either. Hinduism, like pretty much every other religion, is best explained by people making stuff up. But I will say that Hinduism, Buddhism, and Jainism are religions that are actually worth a damn. Even though they're not really based on much of anything factual, they do indeed promote beneficial ideas. Do you have any advice for people in toxic situations involved with religion? Many people are unable to come out to their family about their beliefs due to the threat of being disowned for not having faith. It's especially a problem in the Bible Belt, though this would also extend to other religions. Don't do anything that would unnecessarily put you in danger. If telling people that you are an atheist is going to significantly negatively impact your well-being, then just don't do it. It's not worth it. People don't really need to know exactly what your ideas are. Because for most people, you don't really have much to gain, but you do have a lot to lose. Similarly, do you have anything to say to people questioning their beliefs, but are afraid of considering agnosticism or atheism for fear of damnation? I'd tell them to think about it this way. If God does exist, then it should be pretty evident, right? And if you were to question him, and then look for evidence of his existence, you'd come up with stuff, and your faith would just be strengthened, right? But if you question him, look for evidence, and there's no evidence there, then it'd be nice to know whether or not you're wasting your time. But questioning something should always be allowed. And when it's not, you really have to ask why. Do you inform yourself for each video, or is most of this just your area of study? When I make videos, I do a lot of research. Now, you also talk about Professor Stick, and I will say that if I understand correctly, he does work in some field of biology, so that would be his strong suit. But me, personally, I don't work in any field of science. The most that I can say is that I've learned a little bit about psychology on my own time. But when I make videos, if they sound really well informed, that's because I do a lot of research beforehand. Which YouTuber do you like? I can't really pinpoint it down to one YouTuber or one channel. It really depends on the subject. But as far as atheism, I like The Bible Reloaded and The Drunken Peasants the most. But I'm also a big fan of Jacksepticeye and The Unnatural Vegan. So that's going to do it for today. I didn't get to every question, and I didn't read all of some of the questions, but you'll have to forgive me for that. But thank you guys so much for the support that you've given me, and a special thanks to Professor Stick and Lego Darwin, both of whom I have worked with, and they were both a pleasure to work with. But I also want to thank anyone who shared my videos, because that really does help me out a lot. Anyways, I have a lot of videos to edit, and there's a cup of black beans and rice over there that's calling my name, so goodbye.